Hi, Hamed. How are you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for taking time and sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
So you are a band, an alternative rock band formed in 2008 in Beirut, Lebanon. And if I did my research correctly, you formed out of a music masterclass at the university. Was that correct?
No, it was like a workshop. So basically, we had all played music before starting our majors, and then we were all in the same department, the architecture and design department.
Yeah.
And the workload was a bit insane, so we all stopped making music. So at some point, a few of the band members posted a flyer saying we want to start a music workshop. It wasn't like a formal masterclass or anything like that. It was just people chilling, wanting to make music together. Okay. And that's how we met. And it started out with like a lot more people. There was about 15 people coming in and out of
that's a big
music.
band.
Yeah. It was like 15 people coming in and out of the music space and just trying to make music. The point was we wouldn't do any covers, we'd just try to compose.
Right away, without covers?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. How did that work out? Did it work out? Well, obviously
I guess,
it did.
yeah, 8 years later, I can't complain. But yeah, so that's how the ball started rolling, I guess.
Your music is very Middle Eastern, but the image, the production is very Western, which for me, that's at least my perception. I don't know, do you agree with that perception? Was it a planned thing to do? Would have been my question.
I don't really see things like that, to be honest. I don't think that binary really holds. This like Eastern, Western thing doesn't really make much sense to me at all. I think there's an expectation when it comes to Arab artists, like there's a lot of expectation to sort of fit into a particular image that's often marketed of the Arab world and about the Arab world, of sort of being sort of Oriental and a bit more typically other and easier to exoticize and stuff like that. I don't think our music is necessarily more or less Middle Eastern than anything else. I don't really know what the criteria are for these things. But we, when we get into the studio and we try to write music, it's really just about trying to write music. It's not about trying to make it sound sort of more typically Oriental or typically Western, whatever that means. We come from a lot of sort of different musical backgrounds, and we consume massive amounts of music. Like none of us listen to one kind of music exclusively, listens to one kind of music exclusively. So it's, there's a lot of influences that come into the work, I guess.
I forgot which album, but one album was produced, or did you produce in Canada, if I'm correct?
We recorded it in Canada, yeah.
Was that the second album, the third?
It was the second LP, which is the third album, I guess. Like the last one, yeah, the third one.
Exactly. What was the motivation for going to Canada instead of recording it at home, for instance?
Most of the studios that we find in Lebanon are a bit challenging to work in, I feel, because they're not really designed for you to sort of just go in and spend 2 weeks recording and distance yourself from everything else. They're designed to be a lot more efficient, okay. Because they predominantly cater to the pop industry. The independent music scene is quite small, so we don't really have a lot of studios. This isn't to say they don't exist, some do, but again, it's still always a bit challenging. But yeah, that was pretty much the motivation, I guess.
Okay, interesting. You just mentioned the independent music scene. If I understood correctly, all your albums are independently funded.
So far, yeah.
That's correct?
So far, yes, they've been independently funded, with the exception of our last one, which was crowdfunded.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the one we recorded in Montreal, we wanted it to be a bigger production than anything we had done before. We wanted, better sound, better recording, better compositions, the whole shebang, and a better sort of publishing and marketing plan afterwards. So we set up a rough estimate of what it would cost, and we crowdfunded to get that, basically, to get that starting capital. But yeah, they've been independent, basically.
So you didn't work with a major record company or something like that?
So far, no.
So far, no. Was that, sorry if I interrupted, was that by choice?
Yes, to some extent. I mean, it depends on your definition of choice, but the people that have approached us from Middle Eastern labels have always expressed an interest in sort of changing the direction of either the music or the marketing or the image or something like that, and trying to play on things that we don't necessarily approve of playing on. Like, the idea has come up a couple of times that we would really highlight the fact that we're all from different religions, like it's supposed to matter when we don't really think it matters at all. Stuff like that. So we've avoided doing that so far, not out of any like major sort of ideological reaction to the pop industry. It's just really not wanting people to mess with our stuff. We've been talking to a few labels in Europe, so the plan is to basically try to sign the next album to a label here that has been quite cool with what we're trying to do.
So basically, to keep more control of your artistic freedom, let's say, you kept everything by yourself, or like with yourself, with the band. So let's say Mashrou Leila started in 2008, which means after the what some people might call the demise of the record industry, right? After the whole piracy and everything came into play. Would you say that, or because you were not part before of the music industry, before, let's say when it was the so-called heydays, that it's easier for you to adapt, or basically you didn't have to adapt to the new music industry, you were born into it, so it's okay to have a different business plan than before? Would you say that that applies to
I think the fact that we started when we did definitely allowed us certain things that made everything a lot easier, like the fact that people, that sort of YouTube matters a lot more than music television at this point. Social media played a huge part in us being able to spread our music and, with the last album to actually fund the music. So yes, the fact that people had already changed and started using this stuff was a big deal for us. But then another thing is that this doesn't really happen in the Middle East. So it was still a lot of work to try and get everything to happen online, basically, instead of through the proper channels. The demise of the record industry, I guess, is something that's happening worldwide, but with the Middle East, they're still pretty strong. I think the big pop labels are still quite active and quite dominant.
Okay, good to know. You gave, correct my pronunciation, El Hal Romansi. Is that correct that you gave that away for free?
Yeah, we posted it online for a free download.
That was the second, or just the first
real? No, it was the second. It was the second
release.
Album. It was an EP.
Okay. And sorry, you posted it?
We posted it online for people to download it for free, and they could have also bought it if they wanted to be supportive. Okay. But we figured, to be honest, people pirate everything, and with where we were at the time, I still think it did us more good than otherwise. Like the fact that people just had access to the music, that they were spreading it, that they were sharing it. It's not all bad. There are benefits to people just having that kind of access to streaming music and stuff. So
it's quite obvious that many other artists have said that if they give music away for free, then they might have more people coming to the concerts. Did you feel something like that?
I don't know. It's difficult to answer because things have sort of just been going upwards for the band. So it's difficult to say whether or not that one thing actually did it for us or otherwise. But yeah, I can see why in theory that would help.
Sure. We come to the last question, the bonus question as we call it.
Bonus question.
You mentioned that you went to Montreal because they had the analog tape machine and so on. If you could choose to have one album produced completely analog, no digital editing afterwards, or fancy everything digital tools you can imagine, which studio would you choose to record on?
Wait, so in both cases, unlimited access to
of course, yeah. But only analog, completely analog, no computer.
Or completely digital.
Or then completely digital.
But then completely digital, are we still recording the actual instruments, or is that
no,
digital
of course,
as well?
No. Just the recording part would be completely digital. But
then
of course,
honestly, I know I probably shouldn't say this out loud, and there's going to be a lot of hipsters that are going like this, but probably digital. Okay. Analog has its charms, but I think digital, especially at this point in time, has managed to come quite far in terms of recreating those charms. I think there's also just a lot of efficiency and room to play and possibilities that are opened by working with digital stuff, that are opened by working with electronics, that tend to go sort of unaccounted for by people in sort of non-electronic fields of music. Mm-hmm. There's this nostalgia about working with analog that I don't think is always appropriate. it was good for us with the last album because that was sort of the sound that we were going for. It's not just like a random sort of like deification of analog stuff and working with tape. It's actually really inefficient and really hard and expensive. But yeah.
Sure, I see it. Well, Hamed, thank you so much. It was
Thank
very
you.
interesting. All the best with the tour, with
Thank
the
you very
next
much.
album, I
Thanks for
suppose,
that.
if you're
Yeah,
working on
hopefully
it.
we're recording in a few days actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as soon as we leave Bern.
Oh,
Go back
great.
to Paris and record.
Looking forward to that then.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. All
Thank
the
you.
best.